There's a question that separates the fulfilled from the frustrated, the disciplined from the drifting, the great from the average, and the question is this: what do you do when no one is watching? The truth is, most people don't rise to the level of their potential. They fall to the level of their habits. We talk a lot about purpose, about mindset, about vision, but none of that matters, not a single ounce, if you don't master the one habit that drives all the others, the habit of keeping promises to yourself. Not the promises you make to your boss, not the commitments you post online, not the goals you announce at the start of a new year, the small, quiet, private promises, like I will get up when the alarm rings, like I will finish what I start, like I won't quit just because it's uncomfortable. This is the habit that changes everything, because when you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. And when you don't know strategy, no system, no motivational video will ever be enough. We're taught to keep our word to others. But rarely are we taught the weight of keeping our word to ourselves, and that's where most people break, not publicly, not in big dramatic moments, but in the small ones, in the moment where you say just 5 more minutes, in the moment where you say I'll start tomorrow. In the moment where no one else would even notice, but you notice. You always notice, because deep down yourself, confidence is built on evidence, not inspiration. Evidence of what you repeatedly do when no one is around to clap. Evidence that says, when I say I will, I do. That's the one habit that can change your life overnight. There's something powerful about doing exactly what you said you would do, especially when no one else knows about it. In a world full of distractions, broken resolutions, and half-finished intentions, keeping a promise to yourself is not just rare, it's revolutionary. It might not get you likes, it won't trend on social media, and it probably won't impress anyone in the moment. But it will change everything about how you see yourself, because the most important person to believe in you is you. It's easy to talk big. It's easy to say, I'm going to start waking up early, or I'll finally write that book, or I'll start my fitness journey on Monday. The words come naturally. They make us feel hopeful, in control, and inspired. But the real test isn't in what we say. It's in what we do after the feeling fades, because feelings are temporary, but character is built in follow-through. Every time you make a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you're creating an opportunity to either build self-respect or erode it. If you say, I'll wake up at 6 a.m., and you do, something changes inside you. It's subtle, but it's real. You start to believe yourself. Your brain starts collecting evidence that says, I can trust this person. And that person is you. On the other hand, when you keep breaking your own word, hitting snooze, skipping the workout, procrastinating the project, you begin to doubt yourself even if no one else knows. That internal erosion of self-trust slowly chips away at your confidence. Not because you failed once, but because deep down you don't believe you'll follow through anymore. People often wonder why they struggle with self-doubt, procrastination, or lack of confidence. The answer is often hidden in broken promises. Not to others, but to themselves, and the good news, you can rebuild that trust, one decision at a time. You don't need a complete life overhaul. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You need one clear promise, followed by immediate, uncompromising action. The key is to start small. The smaller, the better. It's not about how impressive the goal sounds. It's about how consistent you can be. I'll drink 1 glass of water first thing in the morning. I'll stretch for 5 minutes after I wake up. I'll write for 10 minutes before checking my phone. These don't seem like life-changing habits, but they are, because every time you keep a promise, no matter how minor, you're not just building a habit, you're rebuilding your identity. You're proving that you are someone who finishes what you start. Someone who means what they say. Someone who can be trusted with discipline, vision, and responsibility. This single habit becomes the foundation for everything else. It spills into your relationships, into your work, into your health, your creativity, your leadership. Why? Because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And if you learn to honor your own word in private, you'll start to show up with integrity in public. You won't need to fake confidence. You won't need to explain your intentions. People will feel the strength in your consistency, and more importantly, you will feel it, not as ego, but as certainty, the quiet, grounded certainty that comes from knowing you'll show up, no matter what. This is the habit that separates dreamers from doers. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about being smarter or faster or more experienced. It's about whether or not you can do the hard, boring, unglamorous thing today, simply because you told yourself you would. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be watched to stay committed, the kind of person who doesn't need external accountability to act with integrity, the kind of person who leads themselves first, before they lead anyone else. We often wait for motivation to kick in. But motivation comes asterisk after asterisk action, not before. You earn it by moving forward even when it's inconvenient, even when it's early, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when no one is watching. And it all starts with a promise. Not to the world, not to your boss, not to your family, to you. Just one, simple, promise kept. Confidence is not something you're born with, and it's not something that magically appears when the conditions are perfect. Confidence isn't a mood, a burst of adrenaline, or something you can fake your way into long term. Confidence is the result of accumulated evidence, the kind that comes from showing up again and again, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's hard, and especially when it's inconvenient. Confidence is the reward for consistency. It's not about what you feel in the moment. It's about what you've proven to yourself over time. The problem is, most people wait for a feeling to take action. They say, when I feel ready, I'll start. Or when I feel confident, I'll speak up. Or when I feel certain, I'll take the risk. But feelings are fleeting, they're unreliable. They change with your environment, your sleep, your hormones, your circumstances. If your action depends on your emotion, you will live a reactive life, one where you only show up on your good days and collapse on the bad ones. But if your action depends on your evidence, you begin to live proactively. You don't need to feel courageous to act courageously. You just need proof that when things get difficult, you don't disappear. That proof doesn't come from big achievements or viral success. It comes from small, consistent wins that no one else sees. Waking up on time, showing up to the gym, finishing the project even when motivation dies, making the phone call you've been avoiding. These actions seem minor to others, but to you, they become data. Every time you show up when it would have been easier not to, you cast a vote for the person you're becoming. Your brain takes notes. I do what I say I'll do. I follow through. I can be counted on. Confidence, then, is not a gift, it's a scoreboard. The more reps you put in, the more data your mind collects, and eventually the scale tips. You no longer need to psych yourself up or beg for motivation because you've built a foundation of self-trust. You don't need external validation when your internal evidence speaks louder than doubt. Confidence is the voice in your head that says, I've been here before, I know how to handle this, I know who I am under pressure. And that voice only grows stronger the more you prove it true. We're often told to believe in ourselves, but belief without evidence is just hope. Real belief, the kind that anchors you in storms, comes from lived experience. And the good news is, you can build that experience brick by brick. You don't need to wait for a big opportunity to prove yourself. You prove yourself by taking action right now, where you are, with what you have. If you can't keep a commitment to yourself when the stakes are low, how will you ever keep it when the stakes are high? The mistake most people make is trying to fake it until they make it. But faking confidence never lasts. You might pull it off in a moment, but it crumbles under pressure because it wasn't built on anything solid. The better approach is this: asterisk asterisk earn it until it's real asterisk asterisk. Show up, do the hard things, build the muscle, and when you face fear or uncertainty, you'll have something to lean on your own track record. That's what separates the consistent from the inconsistent. The consistent don't wait to feel good before they move, and then the feeling follows. They've trained themselves to take action based on identity, not emotion. They don't need to feel ready, because readiness was built through repetition. They've done the work when no one noticed. They've fought battles others didn't see, and that quiet effort becomes their confidence. You cannot shortcut this process. You can't talk your way into self-trust. You have to earn it day after day, not by being perfect, but by being committed, by learning how to show up through resistance, by collecting tiny moments of resilience that add up over time. That's how you move from insecurity to confidence, not in a sudden burst, but in a steady climb, not through hype, but through evidence, not through words, but through action. Everyone loves motivation when it shows up. It's loud, energetic, and exciting. It makes you feel invincible, like you could conquer the world. But here's the uncomfortable truth: motivation is unreliable. It's emotional, it's fleeting, and if your success is dependent on feeling fired up every day, you're going to lose, because the days that change your life the most are usually the ones when you feel the least motivated. The real winners, the ones who grow, build, create, and succeed, are the ones who rely on quiet discipline instead of loud motivation. Discipline isn't flashy. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't always feel good. It's not about being in the mood. It's about doing the work asterisk even when you're not asterisk. Discipline whispers when motivation shouts. It doesn't hype you up, it holds you accountable. And while motivation might help you start, discipline is what ensures you don't stop. The people who accomplish the most in life are not the ones who feel the best every day. They're the ones who show up even when they feel the worst. They don't rely on inspiration to move. They don't need perfect circumstances to begin. They act because they said they would. They train themselves to do what's necessary, whether they feel like it or not. That's discipline. That's what creates momentum. That's what separates amateurs from professionals. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they wait for a feeling. They think, I'll work on it when I feel better, or I'll get serious when life calms down. But life never calms down. It's messy, it's chaotic, it throws curveballs, and if you only move when the conditions are ideal, you'll barely move at all. Discipline is your anchor. It's what keeps you grounded when everything around you is unstable. It's what drives you forward when your emotions beg you to stop. Discipline is the quiet voice that says, get up. When your body screams to stay in bed, it's the decision to follow through on your commitments long after the excitement has faded. It's the will to do the hard thing again and again and again, not because it's fun, but because it's right. That kind of grit doesn't look glamorous on the outside. It looks like saying no to distractions. It looks like staying focused when no one's clapping. It looks like repetition, routine, and relentless consistency. But here's the part people don't talk about. Quiet discipline builds a kind of confidence that motivation never will. Because when you do the hard thing over and over, when you show up for yourself in silence, you start to trust yourself on a deeper level. You don't need external validation to believe in yourself. You've already proven, through action, that you're reliable, and that belief is unshakable. Discipline teaches you to act in alignment with your goals, not your feelings. Your feelings are temporary, but your vision isn't. Your emotions are unstable, but your mission shouldn't be. If your actions are always at the mercy of your mood, you'll never create anything meaningful. The people who rise to greatness in any field didn't get there because they were always motivated. They got there because they refused to negotiate with excuses. They were willing to be bored, willing to be uncomfortable, willing to be misunderstood, and they kept showing up anyway. In the age of social media, everyone wants instant results. Quick wins, hacks. Motivation makes promises, but discipline delivers results. When motivation dies down, when the applause stops, when no one's watching, that's when discipline takes over. That's when the real transformation begins. Not during the highlight reel, but in the reps no one sees, in the effort that doesn't go viral, in the quiet, unseen battles that shape your character far more than public success ever could. If you want to become someone who doesn't need to be pushed, someone who pushes themselves, you have to stop relying on motivation to carry you. You have to practice doing the hard thing when it's the last thing you feel like doing. Discipline is the muscle, and just like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. It doesn't matter how fired up you are today. What matters is what you're willing to do when the fire is gone. Because those are the moments that count. Those are the moments that build something permanent. Most people spend their entire lives chasing a version of themselves that only exists in their imagination. They say things like, "Once I feel more motivated, I'll start working out." Or "When I feel confident, I'll go after that promotion." Or "Once I get inspired, I'll write that book." But here's the truth. Waiting for the right feeling is the fastest way to waste your potential. You don't become the person you want to be by wishing, hoping, or waiting. You become that person by making a decision, not once but over and over again. Identity is not something you find, it's something you build. Too many people try to change their life by changing their behavior. Temporarily, they diet for a month, go to the gym for 2 weeks, wake up early for a few days, and then they burn out. Why? Because the behavior was not tied to identity. They were acting like someone they hadn't committed to becoming, and that creates internal conflict. There's a huge difference between saying, "I'm trying to exercise," and saying, "I'm the kind of person who takes care of my body." The first is behavior. The second is identity, and that difference is everything. When your actions are rooted in identity, consistency becomes natural. You're not forcing yourself anymore, you're just living in alignment with who you are. You no longer have to negotiate every decision. You don't debate with yourself about whether to wake up early or show up to work prepared or practice that skill. You just do it, because that's who you are now. That's the power of identity-based living. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of decision fatigue and mental tug-of-war. You're no longer chasing the life you want, you're embodying it. And here's where the transformation begins. You don't have to wait for some dramatic external change to start behaving differently. You can decide today who you want to be, not based on your past, not based on your failures, but based on the vision you have for your future. Decide to be the kind of person who follows through, who does hard things, who honors commitments, and then prove it not with words, but with action. The most powerful shift happens when your habits match your identity. When you no longer need to pretend or fake discipline because you've become disciplined. When doing the right thing isn't a struggle anymore because it's part of your DNA. But the way to get there isn't through massive, overwhelming change. It's through small, repeated actions done with total integrity. Every time you act in alignment with your future self, you cast a vote for that identity. And over time, those votes compound. They become the new normal. They form the foundation of who you are. Think about how powerful this is. You don't need permission to become someone new. You don't need to wait for the stars to align. You just need to start showing up like the person you claim to be. Want to be a writer? Write. Want to be a leader? Lead. Want to be confident? Speak up. Don't wait for the feeling. Behave your way into the identity. Every courageous act rewires your brain to believe that this new version of you is real. And the more consistent you are, the more deeply rooted that identity becomes. It's not about being fake. It's about being intentional. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. You're stepping into who you've always had the potential to become. That potential has been waiting for you to stop hesitating and start embodying, to stop dreaming and start doing, to stop admiring the traits in others and start cultivating them in yourself. Identity is built through repetition. It's built through grit. It's built through showing up when it's hard, and especially when it's boring. The people you admire didn't just wake up one day and become disciplined, confident, or successful. They decided. They made thousands of small decisions that aligned with their desired identity, and those decisions became a way of life. You have the same power. You just have to stop outsourcing your future to your feelings. You don't need to feel like the best version of yourself to act like it. In fact, the action comes first, the feeling follows. That's how confidence grows. That's how purpose solidifies. That's how greatness is formed. When you make identity your starting point, everything else gets simpler. You no longer ask, "Should I do this?" You ask, "Is this what the person I've chosen to become would do?" That question alone can change your entire life, because when your behavior flows from a solid identity, the noise quiets down, the doubts shrink, the distractions lose power. You begin to live on purpose, not on autopilot. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait to feel good before doing good. You just do it, because that's who you are now. Everyone wants the big breakthrough, the overnight transformation, the sudden leap from ordinary to extraordinary. But the truth most people ignore is that massive success is rarely the result of one huge moment. It's almost always the product of consistent, quiet, small wins that build over time. The most powerful habit you can develop isn't some dramatic once. In a lifetime decision, it's making one small promise to yourself every day and keeping it. That's where real change begins. That's where momentum is created. It's in the smallest choices, repeated with discipline, that the largest impact is made. There's nothing glamorous about doing the same thing every day. It's not flashy to keep waking up early, or saying no to temptation, or putting in a little extra effort when no one's watching. But those small acts, they compound. Just like interest in a bank account, every small promise kept pays dividends in confidence, in character, in clarity. Most people are chasing motivation, trying to find the energy to overhaul their life. But what they really need is to commit to one small action they can repeat every single day without fail. Because once that becomes non-negotiable, it lays the foundation for everything else. Think about it. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the size of your dreams. You want to lose 100 pounds, build a business, become financially free, write a book, master a skill, and when you look at the size of the gap between where you are and where you want to be, it can paralyze you. But when you narrow your focus to one thing you can control today, one action, one habit, one decision, everything changes. You no longer have to conquer the entire mountain. You just take the next step. And then another, and then another. That's how goals become reality, not in one giant leap, but through hundreds of small steps taken with intention. Every small promise you keep sends a message to your brain. I can trust myself. And that trust is everything. Because when you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop overthinking every decision. You stop waiting for motivation to save you. You just do what needs to be done because you've trained yourself to follow through. The habit of honoring your own word, even in small things, becomes the backbone of your life. It becomes the standard you hold yourself to, and it influences every area of your performance, your relationships, and your sense of self-worth. This is where most people miss it. They believe big results require big actions. But the truth is, it's the daily disciplines no one sees that create the transformation everyone eventually notices. It's in the early mornings where you read 10 pages instead of scrolling your phone. It's in the meal you prep instead of buying junk food. It's in the extra rep you do when your body wants to quit. Those tiny moments matter. They may feel small in the moment, but they echo into every part of your life. They shape how you think, how you speak, how you show up, and over time they build a new identity. Momentum is not built by doing something once and hoping for results. It's built through repetition. Through rhythm, through routine, the people who are consistent with small wins are the ones who are prepared for the big opportunities. They don't wait to rise to the occasion, they prepare daily so when the moment comes, they're ready. That's the difference between those who dream and those who do. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not resources. It's the willingness to do the little things long enough for them to become big things. And yes, it takes patience. You won't see results right away. You'll be tempted to quit. You'll feel like it's not working. But if you can stay focused on the process instead of being obsessed with outcomes, you'll win. Because outcomes are the byproduct of process. And when your process is solid, when your habits are rooted in identity and integrity, the results take care of themselves. You stop chasing external validation and start becoming internally driven. And that's when things start to shift. So don't underestimate the power of small, daily promises. They might seem insignificant today, but give them time. Be consistent. Show up for yourself even when no one else sees it. Because those small decisions, those quiet wins, they're not just shaping your schedule. They're shaping your character, and eventually they shape your destiny. Most people are addicted to being seen. They crave acknowledgement before they've earned mastery. They want validation for intentions, not results. They want applause for effort, not execution. But here's the truth. The most powerful growth happens when no one is watching. The deepest transformations occur in silence. When you train in private, when you struggle in the dark, when you discipline yourself in quiet, you build a foundation that doesn't crumble under pressure. Because it's not built on attention, it's built on truth. The world tells you to document everything, share every step, post every milestone. But when you're truly becoming something more, you don't need the world to know. In fact, you can't afford for the world to know not yet. Because when you share too soon, you invite noise. You expose yourself to opinions, distractions, and unnecessary pressure. And those things dilute your focus. They water down your progress. They make the process about perception, not transformation. There is strength in solitude, not loneliness solitude. That quiet, focused space where you confront your weaknesses without shame. Where you show up to practice, to learn, to fail forward without needing praise. That is where real character is formed. The people who change their lives are not the ones who are constantly broadcasting their efforts. They are the ones grinding behind the scenes, building brick by brick, day by day, while no one's clapping. Because they understand something most people don't. Your results will speak loud enough when the time is right. The most dangerous thing you can do is allow your need to be seen to outweigh your desire to become great. Because attention is addictive, it gives you a false sense of accomplishment. You start confusing noise for momentum, but momentum is quiet. It's forged in repetition, in early mornings and late nights, in choosing progress over recognition. It's built when you decide that your growth matters more than anyone's opinion of it, and that decision to keep building without broadcasting is one of the most courageous you'll ever make. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're working in silence. You don't need to justify your season of solitude. This is your training ground, your proving phase, your roots growing deep beneath the surface, so that when the breakthrough comes, you won't be shaken. The people who rise and stay risen are the ones who built depth before height. They built substance before show. They built resilience before reputation. And that starts by keeping your struggle sacred. There is something sacred about pain that's not public, about tears that are cried in silence, about doubts wrestled with in the privacy of your own mind. That sacredness is not weakness, it's strength, because it means you're doing the work for you, not for applause. It means you're willing to endure discomfort without turning it into a performance. That's how you develop grit. That's how you build emotional strength. Not by avoiding pain, but by carrying it quietly and using it as fuel instead of a plea for sympathy. Eventually, your moment will come. The doors will open. The opportunities will appear. And people will wonder how you got there so fast, not realizing how long you were grinding in the dark. That's the irony. The most overnight success stories are years in the making. They were forged in silence, in the invisible hours, in the discipline no one saw. And that's why they last. Because they're not built on hype, they're built on habits. They're not rooted in applause, they're rooted in consistency. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself forever. It means you stay quiet until the results are undeniable. Until your actions speak so loud that you don't need to. Until your transformation is too obvious to be ignored. Until your new life becomes your normal, not because you announced it, but because you lived it. There's power in restraint. There's wisdom in holding back. There's strategy in silence. You have to decide what matters more, the appearance of progress or the reality of growth. If you want the world to cheer you on before you've built the stamina to keep going, you'll fall apart the moment things get hard. But if you build in silence, if you let your struggle stay private and your growth stay internal, you'll create a version of yourself that doesn't need external motivation to keep going. You'll move from being driven by validation to being grounded in purpose. So tonight, before you go to bed, ask yourself this: what promise will I make to myself that I will keep tomorrow? Just one. Make it small, make it simple, but make it real, then keep it. Because the moment you do, your life won't just feel different, it will be different. Not because the world changed, but because you finally did. Now go and earn your own trust back, one promise at a time.